Marcus Thompson adjusted his tie for the third time as he walked through the marble corridors of the Pentagon. The morning briefing had gone well, and his promotion to senior defense analyst felt more real with each passing day. At 35, he had climbed the ranks faster than most, earning respect through his sharp analysis of global military strategies. His colleagues knew him as thorough, ambitious, and occasionally arrogant about his expertise in military affairs. The war room buzzed with its usual intensity when Marcus entered. Large screens displayed real-time intelligence feeds from various global hotspots, while analysts hunched over computers, parsing through classified data. The room smelled of strong coffee and the tension that came with making decisions that could affect thousands of lives. Marcus had been part of this world for 8 years, but he still felt a rush every time he entered this nerve center of American military operations. "Thompson, good timing," called out General Harrison from across the room. "We need your assessment on the Syrian situation before the secretary arrives." Marcus nodded and made his way to his workstation, passing several colleagues who offered congratulatory nods for his recent promotion. He had worked hard for this recognition, often staying late into the night, analyzing intelligence reports and preparing briefings that had impressed senior leadership. His expertise in Middle Eastern military dynamics had made him invaluable to the team. As he settled into his chair, Marcus noticed a new face at the adjacent workstation. A woman in her late 20s sat focused on her computer screen, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore a simple black blazer over dark pants, looking professional but understated compared to the usual mix of military uniforms and business suits that filled the room. Something about her posture suggested discipline, but Marcus was too absorbed in his own work to pay much attention. The morning progressed with typical intensity. Intelligence reports flowed in from field operatives, satellite feeds provided real-time updates on troop movements, and analysts worked to piece together the complex puzzle of international military activities. Marcus found himself in his element, cross-referencing data points and identifying patterns that others might miss. This was what he lived for, the intellectual challenge of understanding the chess game of global warfare. Around 11, during a brief lull in activity, Marcus overheard the new woman on a phone call. Her voice was calm and professional, but something in her tone caught his attention. She was discussing logistical challenges in what sounded like a training exercise, using terminology that seemed oddly specific for a typical Pentagon analyst. "The infiltration route needs adjustment," she said quietly into her headset. "The original plan doesn't account for the new perimeter defenses. We'll need to approach from the northeast quadrant instead." Marcus frowned slightly. Her language sounded more like someone who had actual field experience rather than the theoretical knowledge most analysts possessed. He glanced over at her computer screen and noticed what appeared to be tactical diagrams, though he couldn't make out the details from his angle. The woman, who wore a simple nameplate reading, A. Rodriguez, finished her call and began typing rapidly. Her fingers moved with the kind of speed that suggested extensive computer training, but there was something else about her demeanor that Marcus couldn't quite place. She held herself with a particular kind of awareness, as if she was constantly assessing her surroundings even while focused on her work. "Rodriguez," General Harrison called out during the afternoon briefing. "What's your take on the intelligence regarding the coastal defenses?" Ana Rodriguez stood smoothly and moved to the main display screen. As she began her presentation, Marcus found himself studying her more closely. Her analysis was sharp and detailed, but what struck him was how she spoke about military installations and defensive strategies. Most analysts discuss these topics in theoretical terms, but Rodriguez spoke with the confidence of someone who had actually encountered such systems. "The radar array positioning suggests a 3-tier detection system," she explained, pointing to specific locations on the satellite imagery. "However, there are vulnerabilities in the overlap zones, particularly during shift changes when operator attention might be divided." Her assessment was impressive, but Marcus noticed something that bothered him. She spoke about infiltration techniques and defensive weaknesses with a familiarity that seemed beyond typical intelligence analysis. It was the kind of knowledge that usually came from specialized training or field experience that most Pentagon analysts simply didn't have. As the briefing concluded, Marcus decided to introduce himself. After all, as a senior analyst, it was his responsibility to welcome new team members and assess their capabilities. He approached her workstation as she gathered her materials. "Marcus Thompson," he said, extending his hand with a friendly but professional smile. "I don't think we've been properly introduced." "Welcome to the team." "Ana Rodriguez," she replied, shaking his hand with a firm grip that surprised him with its strength. "Thank you. I've heard good things about your work on Middle Eastern strategies." 8 years of experience tends to accumulate some useful insights, Marcus replied with a hint of pride. "I noticed your presentation earlier. Quite detailed for someone new to the Pentagon. What's your background?" Anna's expression remained neutral, but Marcus caught a brief flicker of something, caution, perhaps, or calculation. "Various government positions," she said simply. "Intelligence analysis, strategic planning. The usual career path for this kind of work." Her answer was vague enough to be technically truthful while revealing nothing specific. Marcus found this evasiveness slightly irritating. In his experience, people were usually eager to discuss their qualifications and accomplishments, especially when meeting senior colleagues. Anna's reluctance to elaborate suggested either unusual modesty or something she preferred not to discuss. "Well, if you need any guidance getting familiar with our procedures here, feel free to ask," Marcus offered, though his tone carried a subtle undertone of superiority. "The Pentagon can be overwhelming for newcomers, and our protocols are quite different from other government agencies." "I appreciate that," Anna replied politely, though Marcus thought he detected a slight tightening around her eyes. "I'm sure I'll manage fine." The rest of the week passed with Marcus occasionally observing Anna's work from a distance. She consistently produced high-quality analysis, but several things about her approach bothered him. She seemed to have an intuitive understanding of military tactics that went beyond what could be learned from textbooks or intelligence reports. When discussing urban warfare scenarios, she spoke with a precision that suggested first-hand knowledge of combat environments. During a Friday afternoon strategy session, the team was analyzing a hypothetical scenario involving coastal infiltration. Marcus had prepared a comprehensive assessment based on his analysis of historical operations and current intelligence data. He felt confident in his recommendations, which emphasized conventional approach strategies and established military doctrine. Anna, however, raised several concerns about his analysis. She pointed out potential flaws in his assumptions about enemy response times and suggested alternative approaches that struck Marcus as unnecessarily complex and risky. Her suggestions showed a deep understanding of special operations tactics, but they challenged the methodical, by-the-book approach that had served Marcus well throughout his career. "With respect, Rodriguez," Marcus said during the discussion, his tone growing cooler. "Those tactics might work in theory, but practical military operations require adherence to proven strategies. The approaches you're suggesting involve unnecessary risks that seasoned military planners would avoid. Sometimes unconventional approaches are necessary when conventional ones are anticipated," Anna replied calmly. "Predictable strategies can become vulnerabilities themselves." Marcus felt a flash of irritation. He had years of experience analyzing military operations, had briefed generals and cabinet members, and had earned his reputation through consistent, reliable analysis. Having a newcomer question his methods, especially with suggestions that seemed to come from action movies rather than serious military planning, struck him as presumptuous. "Experience teaches us that fundamentals exist for good reasons," he replied, his voice carrying an edge of condescension. "While creative thinking has its place, military operations are too important for experimental approaches based on theoretical possibilities rather than proven methods." The tension in the room was noticeable, though Anna maintained her composed demeanor. Other analysts glanced between them, sensing the underlying conflict but uncertain how to respond. Marcus realized he might have been too direct, but he felt it was important to establish professional boundaries and maintain the standards that made their work effective. As the meeting concluded, Marcus noticed Anna gathering her materials with the same calm efficiency she always displayed. She hadn't seemed particularly bothered by his criticism, which somehow irritated him more than if she had argued back. Her unflappable demeanor struck him as either impressive self-control or arrogant indifference to feedback from more experienced colleagues. Over the following days, Marcus found himself paying closer attention to Anna's work and behavior. She arrived early each morning and often stayed late. But unlike most analysts who spent their extra time reading reports or preparing presentations, Anna seemed to be engaged in physical exercise. He occasionally saw her in the Pentagon's fitness facility during lunch breaks, and her workout routine appeared more intense and specialized than the typical cardio sessions most office workers favored. Her computer skills were also exceptional, far beyond what most analysts possessed. Marcus watched her navigate complex databases and intelligence systems with a speed and familiarity that suggested extensive specialized training. She seemed equally comfortable with strategic analysis software and what appeared to be tactical planning programs that Marcus had never seen before. These observations reinforced Marcus's growing suspicion that Anna Rodriguez was not quite what she appeared to be. Her combination of tactical knowledge, physical conditioning, and technical skills suggested a background that extended well beyond typical intelligence analysis. However, her personnel file, which Marcus had discreetly reviewed, listed only standard government positions without specific details about her roles or responsibilities. The more Marcus observed, the more convinced he became that Anna was either misrepresenting her qualifications or had been assigned to their team for purposes beyond standard analysis work. In his experience, people with hidden agendas often created complications and security risks that could jeopardize important operations. As a senior analyst with responsibility for team effectiveness, Marcus felt it was his duty to address these concerns. The opportunity came during a particularly intense strategy session the following Tuesday. The team was analyzing intelligence regarding a potential terrorist training facility in a remote coastal region. The operation would require careful planning to minimize risks while maximizing intelligence gathering opportunities. Marcus had prepared what he considered a thorough assessment based on established reconnaissance protocols and conventional intelligence gathering methods. Anna, predictably, raised concerns about his approach. She suggested modifications that involved more aggressive tactics and closer-range surveillance than Marcus's plan recommended. Her suggestions demonstrated detailed knowledge of infiltration techniques and counter-surveillance methods that went far beyond typical analyst training. Rodriguez, Marcus said, his frustration finally boiling over. Your suggestions consistently involve tactics that are beyond the scope of standard intelligence operations. Where exactly are you getting this specialized knowledge that makes you think you understand field operations better than established military protocols? The room fell silent. Anna looked at him steadily for a moment before responding. I'm simply applying analytical thinking to the available information, she said calmly. Sometimes fresh perspectives can identify overlooked possibilities. Fresh perspectives based on what experience? Marcus pressed, his voice growing harder. Because your insights seem to come from somewhere beyond typical analyst training, and, frankly, some of us are wondering if you're being completely honest about your background and qualifications. Marcus realized as soon as he spoke that he had crossed a line. Directly questioning a colleague's credentials in front of the entire team was unprofessional and potentially damaging. But his frustration had built over weeks of watching Anna challenge established methods with suggestions that seemed to come from nowhere, and he felt someone needed to address the obvious discrepancies in her claimed background. Anna's expression remained neutral, but Marcus caught a subtle shift in her posture that he couldn't quite interpret. Around the room, other analysts looked uncomfortable with the sudden confrontation. General Harrison, who had been listening to the discussion from the back of the room, stepped forward with a frown that suggested displeasure with the direction the meeting had taken. Thompson, the general said firmly, personnel matters are not appropriate topics for strategy sessions. If you have concerns about team composition, those should be addressed through proper channels. Marcus felt his face flush with embarrassment and anger. He had let his frustration override his professional judgment, creating an awkward situation that reflected poorly on his leadership capabilities. However, he also felt that someone needed to address the obvious questions surrounding Anna Rodriguez and her unusual combination of knowledge and skills. Of course, General, Marcus replied stiffly. I apologize for the disruption. Perhaps we can continue with the operational assessment. The remainder of the meeting proceeded with noticeable tension. Anna Contin General Harrison's office felt smaller than usual as Marcus sat across from the imposing desk, explaining his concerns about Ana Rodriguez. The general listened without interruption, his weathered face revealing nothing as Marcus outlined his observations about Anna's unusual knowledge and behavior patterns. When Marcus finished, Harrison leaned back in his chair and studied him for a long moment. "Thompson, you've been with us for 8 years," the general began slowly. "In that time, you've built a solid reputation for analytical work and professional conduct. That's why this situation concerns me." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, I understand my approach was unprofessional, but the underlying concerns about security and personnel verification remain valid." "Do they?" Harrison asked, his tone neutral but pointed. "Or are you allowing personal frustration to cloud your professional judgment? Because from where I sit, it looks like you're having difficulty accepting input from a colleague whose expertise might exceed your own in certain areas." The words stung because they contained an element of truth that Marcus didn't want to acknowledge. However, he felt compelled to defend his position. "General, with respect, Rodriguez's knowledge base suggests training and experience that goes far beyond standard analyst work. In a secure environment like this, shouldn't we verify that personnel files accurately reflect actual backgrounds?" Harrison's expression grew more serious. "Marcus, I'm going to share something with you that doesn't leave this room. Ana Rodriguez's background has been thoroughly vetted at the highest levels. Her assignment to this team was specifically requested by senior leadership for reasons that are above your clearance level. The knowledge she brings to her work is legitimate, authorized, and extremely valuable." Marcus felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. "I see. So my concerns were unfounded and potentially damaging," Harrison finished. "Rodriguez is here because her unique expertise is needed for current operations. The fact that her background doesn't fit typical analyst patterns is by design, not by accident. Your public questioning of her credentials was not only inappropriate, but could have compromised operational security." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. Ana Rodriguez wasn't just a highly qualified analyst. She was someone with specialized training operating under some kind of classified assignment. His amateur investigation and public confrontation had potentially interfered with important work that he had no business questioning. "Sir, I had no way of knowing," Marcus began. "You had no way of knowing because you weren't supposed to know," Harrison interrupted firmly. "That's how security clearances and need-to-know protocols work. Your job is to perform your assigned duties and work effectively with your team members, not to investigate their backgrounds or question their qualifications." Marcus sat in uncomfortable silence, realizing the full scope of his mistake. Not only had he behaved unprofessionally, but he had potentially interfered with classified operations that required Anna's specific expertise. The embarrassment was compounded by the growing understanding that Ana had handled his challenges with remarkable restraint, given that she apparently had every right to be exactly where she was. "What should I do now?" Marcus asked quietly. "You're going to return to your duties and treat Rodriguez with the same professional respect you would show any other team member," Harrison replied. "You're going to focus on your own work and avoid any further investigation or questioning of your colleagues' backgrounds. And you're going to hope that your outburst hasn't damaged team cohesion enough to affect current operations." As Marcus left the general's office, he felt a complex mixture of embarrassment, frustration, and grudging curiosity about Ana Rodriguez. Clearly, there was much more to her background than he had realized, but now he was explicitly forbidden from pursuing the matter further. The knowledge that she possessed legitimate, high-level credentials only made his public challenge seem more foolish and unprofessional. Returning to the war room, Marcus attempted to focus on his assigned work while processing the implications of his conversation with General Harrison. Ana was at her usual workstation, engaged in what appeared to be routine analysis, showing no sign that she was aware of his meeting with their superior. Her calm professionalism seemed even more impressive now that he understood she had endured his suspicions and challenges while operating under constraints he hadn't even imagined. Over the following days, Marcus made genuine efforts to repair his relationship with Ana and restore normal working dynamics to the team. He approached her with professional courtesy, acknowledged her contributions during meetings, and avoided any behavior that might seem like continued suspicion or investigation. However, the underlying tension remained, partly due to his own embarrassment and partly because of his continued curiosity about her true role. Anna, for her part, seemed willing to move past the incident without dwelling on grievances. She continued to participate in strategy sessions with the same calm expertise she had always shown, offering insights that Marcus now recognized as genuinely valuable rather than merely unconventional. Her willingness to work normally with someone who had publicly questioned her credentials demonstrated a level of professionalism that Marcus found both admirable and slightly humbling. The team dynamics gradually returned to normal, though Marcus remained acutely aware of the undercurrents created by his earlier behavior. Other analysts seemed to have accepted that the confrontation was a temporary aberration, but Marcus suspected that his standing with some colleagues had been diminished by his display of poor judgment. 3 weeks after his meeting with General Harrison, a new crisis emerged that would test everyone's abilities. Intelligence reports indicated unusual activity at a suspected terrorist facility in a remote coastal region. The facility appeared to be preparing for some kind of major operation, but conventional surveillance methods had failed to provide adequate information about the nature and timing of their plans. The situation required immediate analysis and strategic planning to determine appropriate response options. Marcus found himself assigned to a special task force that included Ana Rodriguez and several other senior analysts. The urgency and importance of the mission created an environment where personal conflicts had to be set aside in favor of operational effectiveness. As the task force began its work, Marcus was struck by the transformation in Anna's participation. While she had always been knowledgeable and insightful, the current crisis seemed to activate a different level of expertise and engagement. Her analysis of the target facility's defenses was extraordinarily detailed, including assessments of security protocols, personnel patterns, and vulnerability windows that went far beyond what could be derived from standard intelligence reports. The perimeter cameras have a 40-second rotation cycle with a 12-second overlap zone, Anna explained during a briefing, pointing to specific locations on satellite imagery. However, the blind spot at the northeast corner extends approximately 30 meters due to the terrain elevation. That provides a potential entry point during the guard shift change at 0300 hours. Marcus listened with growing amazement at the precision and specificity of her knowledge. This wasn't theoretical analysis based on intelligence reports. This was the kind of detailed tactical planning that required direct experience with similar facilities and operations. Anna was describing infiltration routes and security vulnerabilities with the confidence of someone who had personally encountered such systems. "How can you be so specific about the camera rotation and blind spots?" asked another analyst. "The satellite imagery doesn't show that level of detail." Anna paused briefly before responding. "Cross-referencing multiple intelligence sources and applying standard security protocol analysis," she said smoothly. "Similar facilities typically follow predictable patterns for surveillance and personnel deployment." Her explanation was technically accurate, but clearly incomplete. Marcus realized that Anna was providing genuine expertise while carefully avoiding details that would reveal the true source of her knowledge. She was walking a careful line between being helpful and maintaining whatever operational security requirements governed her true role. As the task force continued its work, Marcus found himself developing a new appreciation for Anna's contributions. Her insights consistently proved accurate and valuable, often identifying possibilities and risks that other team members had overlooked. However, the more impressive her analysis became, the more obvious it was that her background involved direct operational experience rather than theoretical study. The breakthrough came when Anna proposed a comprehensive infiltration and intelligence gathering plan that addressed all the major obstacles and risks identified by the task force. Her proposal was sophisticated, detailed, and demonstrated a level of tactical planning expertise that Marcus had never encountered among Pentagon analysts. "The approach requires precise timing and coordination," Anna explained as she outlined the plan. "The infiltration team would need specialized training in coastal operations, underwater navigation, and silent movement techniques. They would also need extensive familiarity with the target facility's layout and security protocols. As Anna described the operational requirements, Marcus suddenly realized that she wasn't just proposing a theoretical plan. She was describing capabilities that she personally possessed. Her detailed knowledge of infiltration techniques, security systems, and tactical operations wasn't derived from intelligence analysis. It was the result of specialized military training and direct field experience. The revelation hit Marcus with stunning clarity. Ana Rodriguez wasn't just an analyst with unusual expertise. She was a trained special operations soldier assigned to the Pentagon for intelligence work. Her knowledge came from actual missions, real training, and genuine field experience that few people in the room could match. The understanding changed Marcus's entire perspective on their previous interactions. Anna's challenges to his conventional analysis weren't the presumptuous objections of an inexperienced newcomer. They were the informed corrections of someone with actual operational knowledge. Her calm response to his public questioning wasn't professional courtesy. It was the restraint of someone accustomed to maintaining operational security under pressure. Marcus felt a wave of embarrassment as he realized how completely he had misunderstood the situation. His patronizing offers of guidance, his dismissive attitude toward her suggestions, and his public questioning of her credentials had been directed at someone whose qualifications far exceeded his own. Anna had endured his condescension with remarkable grace, continuing to work professionally with someone who had fundamentally misjudged her abilities and background. As the task force meeting concluded, Marcus approached Anna with a mixture of respect and curiosity that he hadn't felt before. Her plan had been accepted for implementation, and preparations were already beginning for the complex operation she had outlined. "Rodriguez," he said quietly as she gathered her materials. "That was an impressive analysis. Your operational insights were very detailed." Anna looked at him steadily, and Marcus thought he detected a slight smile. "Thank you. Sometimes specific knowledge can be helpful in these situations." "I'm beginning to realize that," Marcus replied. "I suspect there's quite a bit about your background that I didn't understand before." "We all bring different expertise to the work," Anna said diplomatically. "The important thing is using those different perspectives to achieve the mission objectives." Her response was gracious, but revealed nothing additional about her true background. Marcus understood that he was unlikely to learn more about Anna's real qualifications or the nature of her assignment to the Pentagon. However, he no longer felt frustrated by these mysteries. Instead, he felt impressed by the professionalism with which she managed the complex requirements of her position. The operation that Anna had planned was scheduled to begin within days. The emergency alert pierced through the war room at 0347 hours on a Thursday morning, jolting the Skeleton Knight crew into action. Marcus had been reviewing intelligence summaries when the priority communication came through from the field team executing Anna's infiltration plan. The message was brief, but alarming. Primary team compromised. Immediate extraction required. Heavy resistance encountered. Within minutes, the war room filled with senior staff responding to the crisis. General Harrison arrived looking grim, followed by other department heads who had been awakened for this emergency briefing. The large screens displayed real-time satellite feeds from the target location, showing flashes of gunfire and movement that indicated a serious firefight was underway. Marcus felt his stomach tighten as he realized that the carefully planned operation had encountered severe complications. Anna's strategic analysis had been thorough and well-reasoned, but something had gone wrong in the field, putting the lives of highly trained operatives at immediate risk. The failure reflected badly on the entire planning team, and Marcus worried about the consequences for everyone involved. Anna arrived at the war room looking alert and focused despite the early hour. She immediately moved to the communication station and began coordinating with field commanders, her voice calm and professional as she gathered information about the developing situation. Marcus watched her handle the crisis with a composure that impressed him, especially given that her planning was at the center of the operation that had encountered problems. "What's the current status?" General Harrison asked as he surveyed the tactical displays showing the target area. "The primary infiltration team achieved their initial objectives, but encountered unexpected resistance during extraction," Anna reported. Intelligence suggests the facility had additional security measures that weren't detected during surveillance. The team is currently pinned down approximately 200 meters from the extraction point. The gravity of the situation was clear to everyone in the room. Special operations teams were trained to handle difficult circumstances, but being trapped in hostile territory with heavy resistance meant that time was critical for any rescue effort. Every minute that passed increased the danger to the operatives and decreased the chances of a successful extraction. Options? Harrison asked tersely. Anna pulled up detailed maps of the target area and began outlining possible approaches for a rescue operation. As she spoke, Marcus was struck by her thorough knowledge of the terrain, defensive positions, and tactical considerations involved in extracting a pinned-down team. Her analysis was rapid but comprehensive, demonstrating a level of expertise that went far beyond theoretical planning. A direct assault would likely result in heavy casualties, Anna explained, pointing to key positions on the map. However, there's a possibility for a flanking approach using the coastal route. The terrain provides natural cover, and the defenders seem focused on the primary extraction point. As Anna outlined her proposed rescue plan, Marcus noticed something remarkable about her demeanor. While everyone else in the room showed signs of stress and concern about the developing crisis, Anna remained completely calm and analytical. She discussed tactical options with the same composure she might use for routine intelligence briefing, as if coordinating rescue operations under fire was a normal part of her daily routine. The coastal approach requires specialized skills, one of the military advisors pointed out. Underwater navigation, silent movement through rocky terrain, and precise timing to coordinate with the extraction team. Do we have operatives available with that training? Anna paused for a moment, and Marcus saw something shift in her expression. She glanced at General Harrison, who gave an almost imperceptible nod, as if some unspoken communication had passed between them. I can lead the rescue operation, Anna said quietly. I have the necessary training and familiarity with the tactical situation. The war room fell silent. Marcus felt his understanding of Ana Rodriguez shift once again as the implications of her offer became clear. She wasn't just proposing to coordinate a rescue operation from the war room. She was volunteering to personally go into the field and execute the dangerous mission herself. Rodriguez, you're currently assigned to analysis duties, one of the senior staff members pointed out. Field operations aren't part of your current role. Current circumstances require flexible response to critical situations, Anna replied calmly. The rescue mission needs someone with specific tactical knowledge and the ability to adapt to changing conditions. I'm the best qualified person available for this operation. Marcus watched General Harrison's face as he considered Anna's proposal. The general's expression suggested that he was weighing factors that weren't obvious to most people in the room, including classifications and authorizations that governed Anna's actual capabilities and responsibilities. The operation would be extremely dangerous, Harrison said slowly. Are you certain you're prepared for that level of risk? Yes, sir, Anna replied without hesitation. The primary team's situation is deteriorating rapidly. Every delay increases their danger and reduces our chances of successful extraction. I'm ready to deploy immediately. The conversation that followed revealed aspects of Pentagon operations that Marcus had never fully understood. Senior staff members discussed classified protocols for deploying personnel in emergency situations, authorization requirements for field operations, and communication procedures for coordinating rescue missions. It became clear that Anna's background included specific training and qualifications that enabled her to transition from intelligence analysis to active field operations when circumstances required it. As preparations began for the rescue mission, Marcus found himself assigned to coordinate communications and provide tactical support from the war room. His role would be to monitor intelligence feeds, maintain contact with Anna's team, and coordinate with other support units that might be needed during the operation. Watching Anna prepare for deployment provided Marcus with insights into her true background that previous interactions had only hinted at. She moved through equipment checks and briefing procedures with the efficiency of someone thoroughly familiar with pre-mission protocols. Her knowledge of weapons systems, communication gear, and tactical equipment was comprehensive and practical rather than theoretical. Rodriguez, Marcus said as she completed her final briefings. I want you to know that I understand now that I misjudged your background and capabilities. I'm sorry for the professional difficulties I created earlier. Anna looked at him with an expression that was serious but not unfriendly. Focus on providing the best possible support from here, she said. The mission's success depends on everyone doing their job effectively. Her response was professional and forward-looking rather than dwelling on past conflicts. Marcus appreciated her pragmatic approach to their working relationship, especially given the high-stakes nature of the current operation. Personal issues had to be set aside when lives were at risk, and mission success depended on seamless coordination between all team members. The deployment phase proceeded with military precision. Anna's rescue team consisted of 3 other specially trained operatives, all equipped with gear suitable for coastal infiltration and close-quarters combat. Marcus watched the preparations with growing respect for the level of training and expertise required for such operations. This was clearly a world that Anna knew well, while it represented capabilities that Marcus had only read about in intelligence reports. As the rescue team departed, Marcus settled in for what would be several hours of intense coordination work. His job was to monitor multiple intelligence streams, maintain communication with field units, and provide real-time analysis of changing tactical conditions. It was challenging work that required sustained concentration, but it felt more meaningful than his usual assignments because lives depended directly on the quality of his support. The infiltration phase proceeded according to Anna's plan. Satellite feeds showed the rescue team moving silently through the coastal terrain, using natural cover to avoid detection while approaching the area where the primary team remained pinned down. Marcus tracked their progress on detailed maps, coordinating with surveillance assets to provide updated information about enemy positions and movement patterns. Rescue team is in position for final approach. Anna's voice came through the communication system. Primary team status update requested. Marcus consulted the latest intelligence reports before responding. Primary team holding defensive positions, but reports increasing pressure from multiple directions. Ammunition situation becoming critical. Extraction window estimated at 30 minutes before position becomes untenable. The time pressure added urgency to an already dangerous situation. Anna's team needed to reach the pinned-down operatives and establish a secure extraction route before their defensive position collapsed under sustained enemy attack. The coordination required split-second timing and flawless execution by everyone involved. As the rescue operation moved into its active phase, Marcus found himself completely absorbed in monitoring tactical developments and providing support. Radio chatter from the field painted a picture of intense combat as Anna's team engaged enemy forces while fighting their way to the primary team's position. The sounds of gunfire and explosions came through the communication system, providing a stark reminder of the physical dangers faced by people executing the mission he was supporting from safety. Contact established with primary team. Anna reported during a brief lull in the fighting. Beginning coordinated movement to extraction point. Enemy resistance heavier than anticipated, but manageable with current tactics. Marcus felt a wave of relief at hearing Anna's voice confirm that the rescue was proceeding successfully. However, he also recognized that the most dangerous phase of the operation was still ahead. Moving 2 teams through hostile territory while under fire required sustained excellence in tactics, coordination, and execution. Any mistakes could result in casualties or mission failure. The extraction phase tested everyone's abilities as enemy forces attempted to prevent the departing teams from reaching safety. Marcus coordinated with air support units to provide covering fire, worked with surveillance assets to identify threats and escape routes, and maintained constant communication with Anna's team to provide real-time intelligence about changing tactical conditions. Extraction point compromised. Anna reported as her teams approached the planned pickup location. Enemy forces have moved to block primary route. Need alternative extraction options immediately. Marcus quickly analyzed satellite feeds and intelligence reports to identify alternative possibilities. Working with other analysts, he located a secondary extraction point that offered better security but required the teams to travel an additional 3 kilometers through partially hostile territory. Secondary extraction point identified. Marcus responded. Coordinates being transmitted now. Estimated travel time 45 minutes with current tactical conditions. Understood, Anna replied. Beginning movement to secondary location. Maintain surveillance on route, and alert for enemy repositioning. The remainder of the operation required sustained coordination as both teams moved through dangerous terrain while enemy forces attempted to track and intercept them. Marcus worked intensively to provide navigation support, threat analysis, and communication coordination that enabled the teams to avoid major confrontations while progressing toward the extraction point. When the final helicopter departed with all operatives safely aboard, the war room erupted in relieved celebration. The rescue operation had succeeded despite significant complications, and all personnel were returning safely. Marcus felt exhausted, but satisfied with his contribution to the mission's success. The weeks following the successful rescue operation brought significant changes to the dynamics within the Pentagon war room. Marcus found himself working more closely with Anna on various strategic assessments, and their professional relationship gradually evolved from the tense mistrust that had characterized their early interactions. However, the transformation wasn't entirely smooth, as both struggled to navigate the complex aftermath of their initial conflicts. Anna returned from her field deployment with the same calm professionalism she had always displayed, but Marcus noticed subtle changes in how other team members interacted with her. Word had spread about her role in the rescue mission, and colleagues who had previously viewed her as simply another analyst now understood that her background included capabilities that few of them possessed. The newfound respect was evident in meeting dynamics, where her tactical insights were received with greater attention and deference. Marcus felt conflicted about these developments. While he had gained genuine appreciation for Anna's expertise and professionalism, he also struggled with the implications for his own standing within the team. As a senior analyst who had built his reputation on strategic thinking and leadership capabilities, Marcus found it challenging to adjust to working with someone whose qualifications clearly exceeded his own in certain critical areas. The situation became more complicated when General Harrison assigned Marcus and Anna to collaborate on a comprehensive assessment of coastal security vulnerabilities. The project required combining Marcus's expertise in strategic analysis with Anna's knowledge of operational tactics, creating an opportunity for productive partnership while also highlighting the differences in their backgrounds and capabilities. The assessment needs to address both conventional threats and unconventional infiltration possibilities, Harrison explained during their initial briefing. Thompson's strategic analysis will provide the framework, while Rodriguez's operational expertise will identify specific vulnerabilities and countermeasures. Working closely together on the extended project gave Marcus opportunities to observe Anna's work methods and thought processes in detail. Her approach to problem-solving was methodical and thorough, but it incorporated tactical considerations that Marcus had never learned to evaluate systematically. She consistently identified vulnerabilities and possibilities that escaped his more theoretical approach to strategic analysis. The harbor defenses look comprehensive on paper, Anna commented as they reviewed security protocols for a major coastal facility. But the patrol schedules create predictable gaps that could be exploited by someone with appropriate training and equipment. Marcus studied the documentation that Anna was referencing, trying to understand how she had identified patterns that weren't obvious to him. The patrol intervals seem random according to the official schedule, he pointed out. Official schedules often don't reflect actual implementation, Anna replied. Personnel tend to develop informal routines that prioritize efficiency over security, especially during night shifts when supervision is reduced. These human factors create opportunities that aren't visible in the documented procedures. Her explanation revealed knowledge that clearly came from direct experience with security operations rather than theoretical study. Marcus found himself learning valuable lessons about the differences between planned procedures and actual implementation, insights that improved his own analytical capabilities while highlighting gaps in his previous understanding. As their collaboration progressed, Marcus began to appreciate the complementary nature of their different expertise areas. His strategic thinking provided valuable context for understanding broader implications and long-term consequences, while Anna's tactical knowledge identified specific risks and practical solutions that enhanced the overall quality of their assessments. The combination produced work that was more comprehensive and realistic than either could have achieved independently. However, the partnership also created ongoing challenges related to their different backgrounds and working styles. Marcus was accustomed to methodical research and careful documentation of analytical reasoning, while Anna often worked from intuitive understanding of tactical situations that was difficult to explain in traditional analytical terms. Bridging these different approaches required patience and compromise from both parties. Your assessment of the vulnerability windows is accurate, but we need to document the reasoning more explicitly, Marcus suggested during one of their working sessions. Other analysts will need to understand how you reach these conclusions. Some tactical knowledge is difficult to reduce to written explanations, Anna replied. It comes from pattern recognition based on experience that can't easily be transmitted through reports. The challenge of translating Anna's expertise into formats suitable for Pentagon decision-making processes became a recurring theme in their collaboration. Marcus found himself serving as an interpreter, helping to articulate Anna's insights in language and formats that would be accessible to senior staff who lacked her specialized background. The arrangement worked reasonably well for their joint project, but it also reinforced Marcus's awareness of the fundamental differences between their qualifications and capabilities. While he contributed valuable analytical skills, Anna's expertise addressed more critical operational concerns that directly affected national security. The imbalance in the practical importance of their respective contributions was obvious and occasionally uncomfortable. 3 months into their collaboration, a new crisis emerged that would test their working relationship under pressure. Intelligence reports indicated that a terrorist organization was planning attacks on multiple coastal targets using tactics similar to those that Anna had encountered during her field operations. The threat required immediate analysis and strategic response planning, with tight deadlines and high stakes that intensified pressure on everyone involved. Marcus and Anna found themselves assigned to a crisis response team tasked with developing countermeasures for the anticipated attacks. The urgency of the situation meant that their different working styles and expertise areas had to be integrated quickly and effectively, without time for the careful coordination that had characterized their previous joint projects. The attack patterns suggest coordination between multiple cells using sophisticated infiltration techniques, Anna explained during an emergency briefing. Standard coastal defenses won't be effective against operatives with specialized training and equipment. Marcus worked to translate Anna's tactical assessment into strategic implications that could guide policy decisions. If conventional defenses are inadequate, we need to consider enhanced surveillance, modified patrol protocols, and potentially preemptive action against suspected staging areas, he summarized. The crisis response work revealed both the strengths and limitations of their partnership. Anna's expertise was invaluable for understanding the tactical dimensions of the threat, while Marcus's analytical skills helped develop comprehensive response strategies that addressed broader policy implications. However, the pressure of working under tight deadlines also highlighted ongoing tensions related to their different approaches and backgrounds. During one particularly intense planning session, disagreements emerged about the appropriate balance between defensive measures and proactive responses. Marcus favored comprehensive defensive enhancements that would provide long-term protection against similar threats, while Anna argued for more immediate tactical responses that could disrupt the specific attacks currently being planned. Enhanced surveillance and improved patrol protocols will help with future threats, but they don't address the immediate danger from operatives who are already in position, Anna pointed out. We need tactical responses that can neutralize current threats while longer-term defenses are being implemented. Tactical responses carry significant risks of escalation and diplomatic complications, Marcus countered. Strategic solutions provide more sustainable security without the potential negative consequences of aggressive actions. The disagreement reflected fundamental differences in their training and experience. Marcus's background emphasized careful consideration of long-term implications and comprehensive analysis of policy options, while Anna's training focused on immediate tactical effectiveness and rapid response to developing threats. Both perspectives had merit, but they sometimes led to conflicting recommendations. General Harrison, observing the tension during their briefing, intervened to refocus their efforts. Both approaches have value in this situation, he stated firmly. Rodriguez's tactical recommendations can address immediate threats while Thompson's strategic planning provides framework for longer-term security improvements. The solution requires integration of both perspectives, not choosing between them. The general's directive forced Marcus and Anna to find ways to combine their different approaches into unified recommendations. The process required extensive discussion and compromise as they worked to develop plans that incorporated both immediate tactical responses and longer-term strategic considerations. If we implement enhanced surveillance in conjunction with targeted tactical operations, we can address current threats while building capabilities for future security, Anna suggested during their planning discussions. That approach could work if the tactical operations are carefully coordinated with diplomatic efforts to minimize international complications, Marcus added. The strategic framework needs to account for potential responses from allied nations and international organizations. Their collaborative solution ultimately proved effective, providing the crisis response team with comprehensive recommendations that addressed both immediate dangers and longer-term security concerns. However, the process of developing those recommendations had revealed ongoing challenges in their working relationship that went beyond simple differences in expertise. Marcus realized that some of his difficulty in working with Anna stemmed from deeper issues related to professional identity and self-perception. As someone who had built his career on being the strategic expert within his team, having a colleague whose practical knowledge often proved more directly relevant to critical decisions was psychologically challenging in ways that he hadn't fully acknowledged. The situation came to a head during a late evening working session when Marcus made a comment that revealed his underlying frustrations. Sometimes I feel like my 8 years of strategic analysis experience is less valuable than field training that I'll never have access to, he said with more bitterness than he had intended. Anna looked at him thoughtfully before responding. Different types of expertise serve different purposes, she said quietly. Tactical knowledge is useful for immediate problems, but strategic thinking provides the framework that makes tactical actions meaningful. Neither approach works effectively without the other. Her response was generous and diplomatically appropriate, but Marcus detected something in her tone that suggested she understood his underlying concerns. The conversation that followed was more personal than most of their professional interactions had been, as both acknowledged some of the tensions that had complicated their working relationship. I've spent my career building expertise in areas that seemed critically important, Marcus explained. Having that expertise seem less relevant than capabilities I can't develop is professionally frustrating in ways that are difficult to ignore. I understand that feeling, Anna replied. But expertise isn't a competition where only one type of knowledge has value. The work we do here requires combining different perspectives and capabilities. Strategic analysis provides context and direction that tactical knowledge can't generate independently. The conversation helped clarify some of the unspoken issues that had affected their collaboration, but it also highlighted fundamental differences in their career paths and professional development. Marcus had chosen a trajectory focused on analysis and planning, while Anna had followed a path that emphasized direct action and operational capabilities. Both routes had value, but they prepared people for different roles in national security operations. 6 months after the coastal security crisis, Marcus Thompson found himself facing an unexpected assignment that would fundamentally change his understanding of both his career and his relationship with Anna Rodriguez. General Harrison called him into a private meeting on a Friday afternoon, an unusual time that suggested the conversation would involve matters beyond routine administrative business. Thompson, your work with Rodriguez on the coastal vulnerability assessment has been noted at senior levels, Harrison began without preamble. The combination of strategic analysis and operational expertise produced results that exceeded expectations and contributed significantly to policy decisions. Marcus felt a mixture of pride and uncertainty about where the conversation might be heading. Thank you, sir. Working with Rodriguez has been educational and professionally rewarding. Good. Because we have a proposal that builds on that collaboration, Harrison continued. The Pentagon is developing a new joint analysis program that pairs strategic analysts with operationally experienced personnel. The goal is to create teams that can provide more comprehensive assessments than either group could produce independently. The implications of Harrison's words began to dawn on Marcus as the general outlined the proposed program. Rather than treating operational expertise and strategic analysis as separate functions, the Pentagon wanted to develop integrated approaches that combined both perspectives from the beginning of projects rather than attempting to merge them afterward. Rodriguez has been selected to lead the operational component of the program, Harrison explained. Based on your successful collaboration, we're offering you the opportunity to serve as the strategic analysis lead. The position would involve developing new methodologies for integrated assessment while working on high-priority projects that require both tactical and strategic perspectives. Marcus realized that he was being offered a significant career opportunity that would formalize and expand his working relationship with Anna. However, the proposal also meant acknowledging that his most valuable professional contribution might come through collaboration rather than independent expertise, a recognition that challenged some of his assumptions about career advancement. The program would be based here, but it would also involve periodic deployment to field locations for direct assessment of operational conditions, Harrison continued. Both team members would need to develop cross-training in each other's areas of expertise to ensure effective integration of analytical approaches. The mention of field deployment surprised Marcus, as his career had been entirely focused on Pentagon-based analytical work. The idea of actually visiting the locations and facilities that he had previously studied only through intelligence reports was both exciting and intimidating, especially given his lack of operational training or field experience. Sir, I appreciate the offer, but I should point out that my background doesn't include the kind of field training that would be necessary for deployment to operational locations, Marcus said carefully. That's why the program includes cross-training components, Harrison replied with what might have been a slight smile. Rodriguez would provide tactical and operational training for strategic personnel, while strategic analysts would help operational personnel develop enhanced analytical capabilities. The goal is to create teams that can function effectively in both Pentagon briefing rooms and field locations. Marcus felt his understanding of the proposal shift as the full implications became clear. Anna Rodriguez wouldn't just be his colleague in this new program. She would also be his instructor in operational skills that he had never imagined needing to develop. The role reversal from their early interactions, when he had offered to guide her through Pentagon procedures, was both ironic and humbling. I'll need some time to consider the opportunity, Marcus said, though he was already leaning toward accepting despite his uncertainty about the personal and professional challenges it would involve. Of course, take the weekend to think it over, and let me know your decision on Monday, Harrison replied. I should mention that Rodriguez has already accepted her role in the program, contingent on finding an appropriate strategic analysis partner. The final comment added another layer of complexity to Marcus's decision. Anna had agreed to work with him in an expanded capacity, despite their rocky beginning and the professional tensions that had characterized much of their collaboration. Her willingness to take on the additional responsibility of training him in operational skills suggested a level of professional confidence and personal generosity that Marcus found both impressive and slightly overwhelming. As Marcus left Harrison's office, he found himself grappling with questions about career direction, professional identity, and personal growth that he had never expected to face. The opportunity represented a significant departure from the traditional analytical career path he had followed, but it also offered possibilities for development and contribution that might not be available through conventional advancement. That evening, Marcus found himself reviewing his career trajectory and professional goals in light of the unexpected opportunity. His 8 years at the Pentagon had been successful by traditional measures, earning him promotions, recognition, and increasing responsibility within the strategic analysis community. However, his recent work with Anna had shown him limitations in his approach that purely analytical advancement might not address. The weekend gave Marcus time to consider the implications of accepting the new role, but It also provided an opportunity to reflect on how his understanding of professional effectiveness had evolved through working with Ana Rodriguez. Her combination of operational expertise and analytical capability had demonstrated possibilities for contribution that his more narrow focus had never achieved. On Monday morning, Marcus met with General Harrison to accept the position. The decision felt both natural and challenging, representing a commitment to professional growth that would require him to develop capabilities far outside his comfort zone while working more closely with Ana than he had ever imagined when they first met. Excellent. Harrison responded to his acceptance. The program begins next month with an intensive cross-training phase. You'll be working directly with Rodriguez to develop operational awareness while she enhances her strategic analysis capabilities. The initial projects will involve assessment of facilities that you've both studied analytically, but from a field perspective. The cross-training phase began with Marcus learning basic principles of tactical thinking and operational planning under Ana's instruction. The experience was humbling in ways that he hadn't fully anticipated, as Ana patiently taught him concepts that were elementary from her perspective, but completely new to his analytical background. Situational awareness isn't just about gathering information, Ana explained during one of their training sessions. It's about understanding how that information affects your immediate options and potential responses. The same intelligence data can have very different implications depending on your position and capabilities. Marcus found himself struggling with concepts that Ana explained with casual expertise. The transition from analyzing tactical situations in theoretical terms to understanding them as practical realities requiring immediate decisions challenged his entire approach to strategic thinking. However, the process also opened up new perspectives on the analytical work he had been doing for years. I never realized how many assumptions I was making about implementation and execution, Marcus admitted as they reviewed case studies of operations he had previously analyzed from purely strategic perspectives. The gap between planning and reality is much larger than I understood. That's common for analysts who work primarily with intelligence reports, Ana replied without condescension. Direct experience provides context that can't easily be transmitted through documentation. That's why this program has the potential to improve both analytical accuracy and operational effectiveness. As the cross-training progressed, Marcus began to appreciate the complexity of Ana's professional background in ways that his previous observations had only hinted at. Her ability to transition seamlessly between tactical thinking and strategic analysis wasn't just a matter of broader training. It represented a fundamentally different approach to understanding security challenges that integrated multiple levels of analysis simultaneously. The first field assignment came 2 months into the program, when Marcus and Ana were tasked with conducting a comprehensive assessment of a coastal facility that had been the subject of previous analytical reports. For Marcus, it would be his first opportunity to see an operational environment directly rather than through satellite imagery and intelligence summaries. Field assessment requires different skills than conference room analysis, Ana explained as they prepared for deployment. You'll need to observe not just what the security protocols specify, but how they're actually implemented. The human factors that affect operational effectiveness often aren't visible in official documentation. The deployment itself proved to be transformative for Marcus's understanding of strategic analysis. Seeing the facility directly, observing actual patrol patterns and personnel behavior, and understanding the physical constraints that affected security implementation provided insights that no amount of analytical study could have generated. The surveillance coverage that looks comprehensive in the blueprints has significant blind spots when you account for terrain and equipment limitations, Marcus observed as they conducted their assessment. The theoretical security perimeter doesn't match the practical reality of what can actually be monitored effectively. Field observation often reveals discrepancies between planned and actual capabilities, Ana confirmed. That's why combining analytical preparation with direct assessment produces more accurate conclusions than either approach alone. Working together in the field environment revealed new dimensions of their professional partnership. Ana's expertise provided essential guidance for understanding operational realities, while Marcus's analytical training helped identify broader implications and systemic patterns that might escape purely tactical assessment. The collaboration felt more natural and productive than their previous Pentagon-based work had achieved. However, the field deployment also highlighted the extent to which Marcus's comfort zone was tied to familiar analytical environments. Working in operational settings required constant adaptation and learning that challenged his confidence in ways that purely intellectual work had never done. The experience was professionally valuable, but personally demanding. Feeling overwhelmed is normal during initial field deployments, Anna commented during a particularly challenging day of assessment work. The sensory input and immediate decision-making requirements are very different from analytical environments. Most people need time to adjust to the pace and complexity. Her reassurance was helpful, but Marcus also realized that Anna was managing multiple responsibilities that included not just the assessment work, but also his ongoing training and professional development. Her willingness to take on the additional burden of mentoring him through operational learning represented a level of professional generosity that he was still coming to fully appreciate. The field assessment produced results that exceeded the expectations of Pentagon leadership, demonstrating the value of integrated analytical approaches while establishing the credibility of the new program. Marcus felt proud of his contribution to the success, but he also understood that his development as an effective field analyst would require sustained effort and continued learning. As they returned to Pentagon operations, Marcus reflected on the changes in his professional relationship with Anna Rodriguez over the past year. Their interaction had evolved from initial suspicion and conflict through grudging respect and productive collaboration to genuine partnership based on complementary expertise and mutual professional support. "I owe you an apology," Marcus said during their flight back to Washington. "When we first met, I made assumptions about your background and capabilities that were completely wrong. More importantly, I let those assumptions affect my professional behavior in ways that created unnecessary conflict." Anna considered his words before responding. "We both had adjustments to make," she replied diplomatically. "The important thing is that we found ways to work effectively together and create something better than either of us could have achieved independently." Her response was gracious and forward-looking, but Marcus understood that rebuilding professional relationships required more than acknowledgement of past mistakes. The new program would test their ability to maintain productive collaboration while navigating the ongoing challenges of working with someone whose expertise exceeded his own in areas that were becoming increasingly important to his career development. Returning to Pentagon operations with enhanced field experience and expanded professional partnership, Marcus found himself viewing his career prospects differently than he had a year earlier. The traditional analytical advancement path that had previously seemed like the obvious route to senior positions now appeared limiting compared to the possibilities offered by integrated operational and strategic expertise. However, Marcus also understood that his success in the new program would depend on continued professional growth and adaptation to working methods that challenged many of his established preferences and capabilities. The collaboration with Anna Rodriguez had taught him valuable lessons about professional humility, the importance of respecting colleagues' expertise, and the benefits of integrated approaches to complex security challenges. As they resumed their Pentagon duties with enhanced capabilities and formal recognition of their partnership, Marcus felt optimistic about the future directions of both his career and his professional relationship with Anna. The year of conflict, collaboration, and growth had demonstrated that even fundamental misconceptions and professional tensions could be overcome through sustained effort, mutual respect, and commitment to shared objectives. The man who had once questioned Anna Rodriguez's credentials and challenged her qualifications now found himself professionally dependent on her expertise while contributing his own analytical capabilities to create something more effective than either could achieve alone. The transformation represented not just professional development, but personal growth that would influence his approach to collaboration and career advancement for years to come. As their crisis response work concluded successfully, Marcus found himself reflecting on the lessons learned from months of close collaboration with Anna Rodriguez. Working with someone whose expertise complemented but also exceeded his own in certain areas had been professionally challenging, but ultimately educational. He had gained new insights into the practical realities of military operations, while also developing a more nuanced understanding of how different types of expertise contributed to national security objectives. However, Marcus also recognized that significant questions remained about his long-term career development and professional goals. The Pentagon environment clearly valued the kind of operational expertise that Anna possessed, and Marcus wondered whether his more traditional analytical background would continue to provide opportunities for advancement and meaningful contribution. The uncertainty was compounded by his growing realization that Anna Rodriguez represented capabilities and experiences that were fundamentally different from anything he was likely to develop. Her combination of tactical expertise, operational experience, and analytical skills reflected a career path that wasn't available to someone with his background and training. While he had gained respect for her abilities and appreciation for their collaborative potential, Marcus also understood that their professional trajectories were essentially incomparable. As the immediate crisis subsided and normal operations resumed, Marcus faced the challenge of defining his ongoing working relationship with Anna in ways that acknowledged their different capabilities while maintaining productive collaboration. The process would require continued adjustment of his expectations, professional goals, and understanding of how his expertise contributed to the broader mission of Pentagon operations. The experience had taught him valuable lessons about professional humility, the importance of respecting colleagues' expertise, and the complex dynamics of working with people whose qualifications exceeded his own in certain areas. However, Marcus also understood that implementing these lessons in daily practice would require ongoing effort and genuine changes in his approach to professional relationships and career development. Anna's voice came through the communication system one final time before the helicopter moved out of radio range. Operation complete. All personnel accounted for. Thanks for excellent support coordination. The acknowledgement meant more to Marcus than he had expected. Anna's recognition of his contribution felt like genuine professional respect from someone whose opinion he had come to value highly. More importantly, the successful mission demonstrated that they could work effectively together when circumstances required their combined expertise. As the war room began returning to normal operations, Marcus reflected on the events of the past 12 hours. The crisis had provided him with definitive answers about Anna Rodriguez's background and capabilities. She was clearly a highly trained special operations soldier who had been temporarily assigned to intelligence work, but retained her field qualifications for situations that required them. The realization put all of their previous interactions in a new context. Anna's tactical knowledge, physical conditioning, and calm professionalism weren't the result of exceptional analyst training. They were the natural characteristics of someone accustomed to high-stakes operations where mistakes could have fatal consequences. Marcus felt foolish for having ever questioned her qualifications or wondered about discrepancies between her apparent background and obvious capabilities. More importantly, the crisis had demonstrated Anna's exceptional competence under pressure and her willingness to risk her safety for the welfare of fellow operatives. Her calm decision to lead a dangerous rescue mission, her effective execution of complex tactical operations, and her professional coordination with support personnel showed qualities that Marcus found both impressive and humbling. As he gathered his materials and prepared to leave the war room, Marcus realized that his professional relationship with Anna Rodriguez had been fundamentally transformed. The combination of respect for her capabilities, appreciation for her patience with his earlier misconceptions, and gratitude for her acknowledgement of his support work had created a foundation for genuine collaboration that hadn't existed before. However, Marcus also understood that significant challenges remained in their working relationship. His earlier behavior had created professional tensions that wouldn't disappear simply because he now had a better understanding of Anna's background. Rebuilding trust and establishing effective collaboration would require sustained effort and genuine changes in his approach to working with colleagues whose expertise differed from his own. As preparations intensified, Marcus found himself working more closely with her than ever before. Her expertise proved invaluable in refining intelligence requirements, coordinating with field operatives, and anticipating potential complications. During one late evening planning session, Marcus watched Anna review tactical communications protocols with a familiarity that confirmed his growing understanding of her background. She wasn't just analyzing these procedures. She had clearly used them in real operations. Her questions about equipment specifications and backup procedures came from someone who understood the life-or-death importance of reliable communications in dangerous situations. "You've done this before," Marcus said quietly during a brief break in their work. It wasn't really a question. It was an acknowledgement of what had become obvious to him. Anna looked at him for a moment before responding. "I've had various assignments over the years," she said carefully. "Each one teaches you something different about how these operations work." It was the closest thing to a direct confirmation that Marcus was likely to receive. Anna's careful wording respected whatever security requirements governed her position while acknowledging that his understanding was essentially correct. She had operational experience that went far beyond typical intelligence work, and that experience was the source of her exceptional expertise. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of additional team members, but Marcus felt that an important understanding had been reached. He no longer questioned Anna's qualifications or wondered about discrepancies in her background. Instead, he focused on appreciating the unique expertise she brought to their shared work. As the operation launch date approached, Marcus realized that his relationship with Anna Rodriguez had evolved from suspicion and conflict to genuine professional respect. Her patience with his earlier misconceptions, her consistent focus on mission effectiveness, and her willingness to share valuable expertise had demonstrated qualities that Marcus found both impressive and humbling. The crisis that had brought them together on the task force was far from resolved, but Marcus felt confident that Anna's planning and expertise would contribute significantly to a successful outcome. More importantly, he had learned valuable lessons about professional humility, the importance of respecting colleagues' expertise, and the dangers of making assumptions based on incomplete information. You had to participate professionally, offering insights and analysis without any apparent reaction to Marcus's challenge. Her composure only intensified his frustration, as it suggested either remarkable self-control or confidence based on something he wasn't aware of. As the session concluded, Marcus realized he had created a problem that would need to be resolved. His public questioning of Anna's credentials had been inappropriate, regardless of his concerns about her background. Professional relationships in the Pentagon required careful management, and he had allowed personal frustration to damage his standing with both his colleagues and his superiors. However, Marcus remained convinced that Anna Rodriguez represented some kind of anomaly that deserved investigation. Her knowledge, skills, and behavior patterns were inconsistent with typical intelligence analyst backgrounds, and in the sensitive environment of Pentagon operations, such discrepancies could not be ignored simply for the sake of workplace harmony. The confrontation had been handled poorly, but Marcus felt that his underlying concerns were legitimate and important. If Anna Rodriguez was not who she claimed to be, or if she had hidden agenda beyond standard analytical work, then these issues needed to be addressed through appropriate channels, regardless of the temporary embarrassment his outburst had caused. As he gathered his materials and prepared to leave the war room, Marcus decided that his next step would be to request a private meeting with General Harrison to discuss his concerns about team security and personnel verification procedures. The direct confrontation had been a mistake, but the underlying issues remained valid and required proper resolution.